Let's begin with a structural overview. Welcome to another lecture. Our subject today is The End of Oak Street, a recent American science fiction survival film that relocates a 1982 suburb into prehistory and then asks its characters to navigate both dinosaurs and domestic truth. I am Alexei. Thank you for lending us your attention for the next little while.
Hi, I am Priyanka. I help out with Alexei seminars and today I am mostly excited to ask the simple questions that turn out not to be so simple.
To frame our discussion, The End of Oak Street is written, co-produced and directed by David Robert Mitchell. It stars Anne Hathaway as Denise Platt and Ewan McGregor as Greg, with Maisie Stella and Christian Convery as their children, Audrey and Brian. The conceit is elegant. A white flash and pressure shift displace the neighborhood into a primeval ecosystem, where an Allosaurus and airborne pterosaurs become both narrative drivers and existential threats. Wormholes appear at regular intervals, providing timed exits. Some open inside houses, others hover above roofs, turning cul-de-sacs into labyrinths of peril. This combination of intimate family drama and creature survival is the film's operating system, if you will.
Professor, may I ask something simple first? What exactly is a wormhole? And how do Allosaurus and pterosaurs fit the science labels here?
It's important to understand the baseline terms. A wormhole is a theoretical passage through space-time that can connect distant points in space or time. In general relativity, it is a speculative solution that in popular storytelling conveniently enables time travel. An Allosaurus is a large carnivorous theropod from the late Jurassic. In the film, it functions as the relentless ground predator. Pterosaurs are flying reptiles of the Mesozoic era. Strictly speaking, they are not dinosaurs, though they coexist temporally with many dinosaurs. The movie deploys these definitions faithfully enough for narrative clarity, while taking cinematic license with proximity and behavior for suspense.
So, moving on. Why does this matter beyond, cool monsters? What are the stakes the film is really exploring?
We observe themes of family resilience under pressure, secrecy and reconciliation, and the ethics of sacrifice. Denise contemplates leaving Greg. Greg hides that he delivers pizzas at night after losing his job. Under duress, truths emerge. A reconciliation occurs in a car, and Greg later dies shielding the family from an Allosaurus. Meanwhile, Starbuck, the family dog, performs a decisive mid-air rescue when a pterosaur abducts Brian. Beyond those events, and turning from plot mechanics to temporal theory, the film underscores our historical lack of a settled theory for causal loops. We have evocative phenomena, radio chatter about solar flares, and a schedule for wormhole openings, but no closed-form solution. The ambiguity is narratively useful and arguably conceptually honest. Let's start with the history. The story is set in 1982. Which functionally removes smartphones, GPS, and the internet. This heightens vulnerability and forces reliance on trust and ingenuity. Production-wise, the film was developed with Warner Brothers Pictures alongside Bad Robot and Jackson Pictures. Principal photography took place in spring 2024 in London and Atlanta. A modern illustration of globalized filmmaking that convincingly simulates an American suburb. On the marketing side, the working title was Flowervale Street. The final title, The End of Oak Street, was revealed with the March 2026 trailer after studio leaders foreshadowed the change in January 2026.
And some of the surprising beats. There is a librarian who becomes briefly an action hero. There is the extinct plant clue, and there is that 20-minute time lead when they return. Could you outline those?
In simpler terms, Denise photographs an unusual plant. Mrs. Valcourt, the librarian, identifies it as a species extinct for millions of years. This is a quiet foreshadowing that time is already fraying. The catastrophic displacement arrives during a storm as a blinding white flash, with pressure changes and a power outage. Soon dinosaurs are roaming between driveways. Later, after losses and near misses, the survivors jump a wormhole and return to their neighborhood roughly 20 minutes before the original event, allowing Denise to warn neighbors and to reroute Greg's pizza delivery to a distant bus stop, which proves life-saving. 2 years on, in 1984, we see the military has fenced off a prehistoric biome for study. Denise publishes a book titled The End of Oak Street, closing a meta-narrative loop.
And outside the story world, the music and reception.
Composer Michael Giacchino delivers a score released in August 2026 with 27 cues. The range mirrors the film's alternation between intimate beats and chase set pieces. The world premiere occurred in August 2026 at the Stephen J. Ross Theater. Warner Brothers released the film in the United States in August 2026, positioned against Paw Patrol, the Dino Movie, and The Brink of War at the box office. With a reported budget of about $90 million, forecasts targeted a $20 to $25 million opening, including roughly $2 million in Thursday previews. Critical response is broadly positive. RogerEbert.com's Zachary Lee awards 4 out of 4. Screen Daily coins the shorthand Jurassic Park on steroids. The Independent's Clarice Lowry assesses it as stronger than recent Jurassic World entries. The Associated Press praises the blend. Skeptics, such as The Hollywood Reporter's David Rooney, call it high-end trash and critique its nostalgic reliance. The Houston Chronicle admires craft and pacing while noting logic gaps. In academia, we would call this a healthy variance around a positive mean. Before we get to the complexities, a personal note. I am interested in how genre cinema metabolizes social anxieties. A suburb ripped into deep time makes visible our fear that the familiar can collapse without warning. Yet it also animates our hope that honesty and cooperation can be reconstituted under extreme constraints. This brings us to 3 larger questions. Next, let's explore question 1. How does the film's 1980s frame relate to its narrative force? And where does homage end and innovation begin?
Professor, I am curious about the 1980s context. Why does setting this in 1982 matter so much to the film's feel and structure?
It's crucial to understand that the 1980s suburban template carries a grammar. Children's eye perspectives, bikes and rooftops as vectors of movement, neighbors as a micropolis, and a mood oscillating between wonder and menace that we associate with Amblin-era cinema. By removing contemporary digital prosthetics, the film ensures that missed calls and mistimed leaps are diegetically plausible. Moreover, the architecture becomes a character, wormholes in living rooms and sprinting across shingles. The period design aligns with the score's nostalgic motifs and allows the movie to be legible as a conversation with E.T. and Jurassic Park without duplicating their plots. In this way, the past is both a setting and a semiotic tool.
What about originality? Does leaning on that vibe make it, less new? Or does it help it do something sharper?
We can infer a balancing act. Homage supplies a shared vocabulary so the film can prioritize character stakes and timing mechanics. Innovation arrives in the severity of its survival beats and the precision of its wormhole schedule. Critics who celebrate the film tend to argue that emotional clarity plus well-staged dinosaur peril yields novelty through execution. Detractors see a high-budget pastiche where retro scaffolding limits surprise. Both readings are coherent. From a narrative design standpoint, the risk is overdetermination by nostalgia. The reward is immediate resonance that frees attention for the film's specific arguments about secrecy, sacrifice, and the strange heroism of a dog named Starbuck. On to our next point. Question 2. What if the wormholes led somewhere else? And what does physics permit us to say without hand-waving ourselves into extinction?
Let's consider this. If the wormhole had dropped Oak Street into a far future instead of prehistory, what thematic shifts would we expect? And also, what if Denise and Greg had taken the first wormhole without the kids?
Thematically, a far future setting would likely pivot from creature survival to contact with radically evolved ecologies or remnants of civilization. The arc might emphasize estrangement and the archaeology of memory rather than parental sacrifice. Dinosaurs externalize immediate, legible danger. A future Earth could externalize ambiguity. Are we the last or merely late? As for abandoning the children through the first wormhole, the family would fracture across time zones. The film would become a rescue narrative about reintegration rather than one about forging unity before loss. The present structure uses the missed exit to articulate values. They will not leave without the children. That moral axiom loads Greg's later sacrifice with meaning.
And the science part. Is any of this plausible, even theoretically?
To elaborate, in general relativity, solutions resembling wormholes exist mathematically. Keeping them traversable tends to require exotic matter with negative energy density. Time travel via such structures faces additional constraints. Closed time-like curves invite paradoxes, and the so-called chronology protection conjecture suggests nature may disallow them at macroscopic scales. The film's recurring flashes and pressure shifts provide a phenomenology rather than a model. We are given intervals and effects, not equations. As pedagogy, this is acceptable. As physics, it remains speculative. In simpler terms, the film is not wrong to gesture, but the math is not settled, and the engineering is science fiction. Let's shift focus. Question 3. What do we do with the present debate about generative AI in film marketing, given the specific controversy this campaign encountered?
Professor, could you clarify what happened with the AI promotional piece about the dog and why it upset people?
The studio's campaign included a now-deleted AI-generated interview of the dog character Starbuck on the podcast Goldie and Frenchie, owned by Dogpack. Backlash was swift. Observers argued that using generative AI to mimic creative output undercuts human labor at a time when the industry is debating authorship and compensation. Defenders framed it as a playful, low-stakes experiment, capitalizing on a breakout canine character. The clip was removed, but questions persisted about scope, whether this was an isolated misstep or part of a broader strategy was not fully clarified by public materials.
What does this do to audience perception? Does it change how we see the film's creativity? Or is it just noise around the release?
We should separate artifact from apparatus. In practice, viewers can admire a film's craft, performances by Hathaway and McGregor, creature staging, Giacchino's score, while disliking a marketing choice. That said, marketing shapes first contact. Ethical misfires can degrade trust and overshadow early word of mouth. Research-wise, we need clearer norms on disclosure, consent, and credit in AI-derived materials. Empirical studies on audience response to AI versus human-made promos, and labor frameworks that align innovation with fair compensation. It is worth noting that the film itself, by most accounts, withstood the controversy to earn broadly positive critical notices. The episode nonetheless becomes a case study for future campaigns.
Maybe it is ironic that a story about people mattering under pressure was promoted with something that made people worry about, well, people. It makes me wonder how marketing can echo a film's themes without contradicting them.
This logically leads us to our closing. The End of Oak Street is, at base, a survival drama about a family in a 1982 suburb thrown into prehistory by timed wormholes. It fuses dinosaur horror with reconciliation and sacrifice, punctuated by an unforgettable dog's intervention. Today we ask three questions. How 1980s influences inform form and feeling. How the wormhole mechanics invite counterfactuals and brush up against theoretical physics. And how an AI marketing controversy refracts ongoing debates about creativity and labor. For further study, consider the broader portrayal of time travel in cinema and how different eras encode their anxieties into temporal puzzles. In conclusion, thank you for listening. Be precise in your thinking, generous in your interpretations, and timely when the roof begins to shake.
Thank you, Professor. And thank you all for spending the time with us today. So, I guess that kind of sums it up.